Hi, this is Matthew Robert Payne, and this is the book He's Redeeming Love. This is chapter 60, and this is called The Third Breakdown. Uh, as I mentioned in the chapter before, I'd been told by what turns out to be a false Jesus voice that I was healed, and this false Jesus voice, the Antichrist spirit, said to me that I don't need my medication now because I'm healed and God will supply the chemicals I need to my brain. And I'd gone a number of weeks without my medication, and slowly the wheels started to fall off. I had a friend whose name is Yanni, Yianna, who reported me to the police and rang up my phoned my mother and had her report to the police. And um, actually, what topped it off was they had those police reports and psychiatric reports on my life, but I was at home one time and I thought that there was going to be a tidal wave in Sydney, and it was going to come while we were having a gay Mardi Gras, and all the people were going to drown. And so at 2 o'clock in the morning or whatever, I wrote to the local newspaper in Sydney and told them that there's going to be a tidal wave and they've got to call off the gay Mardi Gras because a lot of people are going to be killed. And about 6 o'clock in the morning, there was a knock on the door, and I opened the door and there was police there, and they said, can they come in? And people from the local psychiatrists come in, and or mental health people came in and said that I've been reported to have written this email to the Telegraph, and did I believe there was going to be a tidal wave, and could I come to the hospital? And I asked them to wait, and I packed a bag full of clothes. Often when you go to psych wards, you don't get to take clothes with you, and so I took the time, seeing as they had me in my house, to pack a bag, and I went off to a psych ward. I understood that I was off my medication, though I still fully believed that I was healed, and so I thought that the people taking me to the psych ward were mistaken, and that I was the one that was sane, and they were the ones that were out of their minds, thinking that I was insane. And that is a typical response of someone who's mentally unwell, thinking that they're okay and everyone else isn't okay. But thankfully, Jesus is there on my wall. He on the wall of my home, Jesus was overlooking me and overshadowing me and leading my course of life. At the time, I'd been running a prophetic website, and a lot of people on my prophetic website had quit because I'd been writing strange and scary messages to them, and they didn't want to talk to me. Eventually, when I came back out of hospital, a couple of them did talk to me, but I really scared a few people as demonic spirits were speaking through me in my emails and my messages that I was making. So I went into hospital. I got angry with the nurses, and so they gave me a sedative, and it took a day and a half for the sedative to wear off. I was drunk. Yanni, my friend, came into the hospital the next day, and I was too drunk with this sedative that I couldn't talk to him. So he came in the next day, and I was better and I could talk. Yanni was a true friend, and he came into the hospital every day of my stay, and I ended up staying there a month. I found out that I didn't find out. I had an idea that demons were talking to me, but at that time I had no idea that there was a false Jesus that would talk to me. All the times I've mentioned it in this book that there was a false Jesus, I mentioned it for the readers' clarity and for their own understanding. But up until this point, uh, I still hadn't understood that there was a Jesus that was a false Jesus speaking to me. I had no idea that Jesus was not speaking to me, that there was a false spirit that was pretending to be Jesus speaking to me a lot of the time. Jesus spoke to me a lot of the time, the real Jesus, but often this false Jesus used to speak to me too. And as you can understand, it got very confusing to hear Jesus say things to you that turned out not to be true. It was hard to reconcile a Jesus that was a liar in my mind, but I'd coped with it so far, and it had ended me up in hospital again. It's very hard to come to grips with the fact that you're in hospital and you're being called mentally ill and you've had a psychotic episode once again that's landed you in hospital, and yet all you did was go off your medication because the supposed Jesus, the false Jesus, had told you to go off your medication. So when you understand, well, you don't understand when you don't understand that it was a false Jesus speaking to you and a wrong spirit, you can't really understand yourself why Jesus would tell you you're healed and you actually not be healed. And so, as I said, Yanni used to come and visit me, and I was locked up with a whole lot of psychiatric patients. Um, I was there, and I did a prophecy for a guy that was in there that turned out to be a backslidden Christian, turned out to be a person that used to attend church and had given his life to Jesus years before but hadn't been walking with Jesus lately. And I shared a vision of him sitting on the end of a bridge, drinking a six-pack of beer, and that Jesus was with him at that time and understood him, and apparently that was a time that he was suicidal and trying to get up the courage with the six-pack of beer to kill himself, and it really touched him, and he broke down in tears. And I asked him, could he see, and I said yeah, and I asked him, could he spiritually see? Could he see the angels that were all around us? And I could sense them, but couldn't see them. And he said yes, they could. And actually, I could see him at this stage. I could see him, but I just wanted confirmation that they were really there. And I pointed around the whole of the outside of the psychiatric ward, and he said yes, the whole park was full of angels. And I said, the ones in closer 50 metres square from where we were they different angels? And he said yeah, they were. And he said that they had their wings open and they were forming with their wings a sort of canopy over us. And we went for a walk, and at one stage I said, what are the angels, what are the names of the two walking either side of us? And I expected him to say Michael and Gabriel, because I have these sort of supernatural experiences, and pretty important angels come down and visit me. And on the right hand side he said Michael, and on the left hand side he said the name of the angel was Daniel. And I said, is Daniel a man? And he said, yeah, he is. And it was Daniel the prophet. So it was very interesting that I'd met a saint on earth and he was walking with me. And it's very interesting that Jesus was manifesting himself and his supernatural beings to my Christian friend. And I was able to prophesy and share with him things about his life and deep things that mean a lot to him in his life through the gift of prophecy. So even though my mind was out of control and medication was trying to reel it in, I still had true encounters with God and could truly hear His voice. Had a girl in there that when I was suffering badly in the first few days, I asked her, does she hear voices? And she said yes, she was a schizophrenic. And I said, can you do me a favour? I'm going to ask God to speak to you, and I want you to share what He says to you with me. He's got a message for me. And she said, will He speak to me? And I said, yeah, I'll pray for him. So I'll pray for you that He speaks to you. And I prayed for her, and she said, God wants you to know that you're in a safe place, that everything's going to work out, everything's going to be fine. So just enjoy yourself and enjoy the food and enjoy the company. And things are going to be sorted out soon. You're in the right place with me. Everything's going fine. You've been very obedient, and I'm going to look after you. So relax. And I was amazed with the message and happy with the message. And she said, wow, what's that? How can I listen to that voice? And I said, just ask God to speak to you in the future and He'll speak. And she said, it's such a nice voice. It's so wonderful to hear such a beautiful voice. I said, that's God speaking to you. So even in the midst of a visit to the psych ward, I'd helped a Christian recommit his life to Jesus, and I'd helped a psychiatric patient hear God for the first time and open herself up to hearing from God. So psychiatric medications are important. I believe in divine healing, and I know testimonies of people who've been healed from bipolar or schizoaffective disorder, and schizophrenia and bipolar together. I know people that have been healed and haven't needed medication, but I'd be very cautious to recommend anyone go off their medication like I have. It's the second time I'd gone off my medication, and the second time I'd ended up in hospital because of it. And it's a traumatic experience. Once again, there were Christians that came into the mental ward to share once a week and do a Bible study, and it was amazing to sit down with them and share Jesus with them. And I really love people who take the time out to go and talk to mental patients about Jesus. They really impact me and they mean a lot. It reminds me of the sheep and the goats parable. I was sick and you came and seen me, Jesus said. And so I give a hand up to those people who come into a psychiatric ward. So once again, I had a breakdown. The medication kicked in after a month, and I was put back into my right mind. God bless.